Pokemon Legends Unova or Pokemon Legends Johto or Legends at all, who knows? We have no idea, but there's been a lot of Unova talk, but recently talk about Johto games has come up, and there's a few reasons for this. The main thing is that people are thinking that it's possible if ILCA is making any kind of game, and Game Freak is also making any kind of game, it is possible, similar to how we did when BDSP and Legends came out, we get two different games. But instead of two Unova games or two Johto games, we get one Johto game and one Unova game. There's a few different reasons for this. One of the reasons is because Kitakami seems to be a more Johto or Japanese inspired region, while Blueberry Academy is straight up set in Unova. So that people are saying that might be hinting towards these two separate games. Another thing is, and the main thing that's being brought up, is the fact that the Paradox Beasts and the Paradox Swords are both ancient and future forms of the legendary beasts and legendary swords, right? Like the ancient beasts may hint towards a Legends Johto game, and the future swords may hint towards a future or a modern gen Unova game. I know this is a Johto related video, but I have to talk about Unova real quick because I think that explains why it's possible that we might get Johto and Unova games. So gens 1 to 4 were able to get remixed because, you know, they had two versions and then a third like proper version of the game. Gen 5 is where that stops. You have Black and White and Black 2 and White 2. You have basically two different stories. How they choose to go about this, I don't know, because their argument has been that, oh, we're not going to have the Battle Frontier in Oras because it's an Emerald exclusive thing. We're not going to have the Distortion World in BDSP because it's a Platinum exclusive thing, you know? Maybe it's just an excuse, maybe they're just being lazy, who knows, but if you were to remake Black and White, then what does Gen 5 have? Black 2 and White 2? Okay, sure. But, I don't know, like, all of Black and White is now being remade. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what their protocol is. Like, if they're so stingent on keeping certain features limited to certain generations, if you remake Black and White, you basically have Gen 5 right then and there. So maybe it's possible they stop with remakes after this and they just continue on with the concepts of future or Legends games, you know, games that relate to a certain generation or a region, but that are newer and tell a new fresh story. It's possible, that's asking for a lot, I don't know, but it's possible. But if they choose to go that route, then they don't need to make Black and White remakes. They just need to make one new Unova game, even if, like, you know, who knows? They don't need to do anything, but they might just be making one new Unova game and they won't need to remake anything else. That leaves another team, either ILCA or Game Freak, creating a separate title. And that could be Legends Johto. It's even possible that ILCA remakes Black and White and that is the Unova title and that's it. Then Game Freak's left with something else. But why would they don't have, I don't feel like there's any reason to remake Black and White and then also give us a Legends game. Because technically the lore of Unova is set way back in the past. Right, I think like Unova is one region where it's going to be really difficult to make a Legend style game, because if you were to do that, you have to go extremely far back in the past, whereas Legends Arceus was like, what, 150, 200-ish years ago? You can't get that same time frame with everything that happens in Unova you can't do it. You can't do it with Legends Kyurem game. With Legends Kyurem and Legends Unova, you have to go far back where probably like the two kings existed, the lore of Unova, you know what I'm talking about? Unless the Unovan lore and the Unovan, you know, the Unovan lore, the war and the brothers and the split between Kyurem, Reshiram, and Zekrom happened like 150, 200, 300 years ago. Yeah, that makes sense, but everyone's assumption is that's 3,000 years. I'm sure they can retcon it in some way and make it happen, but I think it's, regardless, it's a little bit more difficult to make a Legends Unova game. A future Unova game, or a Paradox Unova game, or whatever you want to call it, might work out better. Who knows? Regardless, Johto has the fundamentals and the foundation laid for a Legends game, because the story with the Burn Tower is confirmed to be like 150 years ago, prior to the events of the Johto games. So that is already perfect setup for anything Legends related. And Johto actually goes into a lot, like this can expand the world a lot, right? Because one thing is, yeah, you have the theory or like the big question that everyone has is like, okay, if Suicune, Raikou, and Entei died in the burn tower and Ho revived them, what Pokemon were they beforehand? And you kind of see it in Pokemon Generations or whatever, but you don't really get to see it. This could show us some new forms or their previous lives to us, right? You get to see them, and that would be pretty freaking cool. I don't know how that would work in terms of the games. Would they be able to work with Eviolite? I don't think so, but regardless, it'd be cool to see these Pokemon. Yeah, that's one thing. The other thing is that Johto closely ties in with Sinnoh with the Sinnoh ruins. There's been a ton of theories about this, that, you know, the 1,000 arms that Arceus has is actually the unknown, because in the Sinnoh ruins event, when Arceus is there, it's the unknown that come together and create either Dialga, Palkia, or Giratina. And I don't know, it's pretty crazy, but there is a close tie-in with Unknown and Arceus. So if you wanted to tackle the lore of the Pokemon world, yeah, going for a Legends Johto game would make a lot of sense. On top of this, the real kicker is that, I don't know if you guys remember, in Legends Arceus, there was some dialogue that Benny had, Wally's ancestor, you guys remember him? And he mentioned something about him and Commander Kamado, coming from their home village that was burned down, and they made a home in Hisui. And from Hisui, of course, Benny goes into Hoenn. But this hometown that was burned down is actually Johto. Now, Toby made a whole video about this, about why Benny and Kamado, specifically Kamado, was from Johto, and it's like 100% legit. Toby goes on to mention how in the beta of Gold and Silver and Crystal, Lake of Rage used to have a town, and that, you know, that was scrapped, and that in Legends Arceus's Pokedex entry, it's mentioned that Gyarados was so ferocious and strong that it wiped out an entire town, and that town is likely where Benny and Kamado are from. Or it could be possible that Kamado and Benny were in Ecruteak City, and then that's the town that burned down. But regardless, there's a lot of evidence pointing towards them being from Johto, and it makes sense, right? Geographically, if you look at it, Johto is like right below Sinnoh, I believe. They're tied by the Sinnoh ruins, so they're definitely next to each other in some capacity. And it's easy, if their hometown burned down, it's easy for them to go up to Hisui. If this was the case, I don't even think Legends Johto or Legends Celebi would be a sequel to Legends Arceus. It would in fact be a prequel to Legends Arceus. Though that might be a little problematic in terms of timeline, because technically Legends Arceus, we're estimating it's like 200 years back. We don't know. There's no way to tell. But I don't know. I feel like it's possible that they could do a prequel instead of a sequel if they did try to show the events of the Burn Tower, which I imagine they would. I can't imagine them missing out on that. I still think you guys should watch that video that Toby made, because it was like Hoops and I were kind of a part of it. We weren't in the video, but we the three of us discussed this before Toby made this video. And yeah, there's a lot, right? Like Kurt's ancestors there in Hisui as well. Kurt being from Johto, Kamado's wearing a frigging kimono, which is very, Ecruteak City, people wear kimonos there. And Kamado's dialect is actually, I think it's called Kensai Ben or something. And that's a dialect that's used within the Johto region, or the region inspired from the Johto region in IRL. You get me? You get me. Anyways, please take a look at that video. But the point is, everything points towards Johto being very closely tied to Sinnoh, and in turn Legends Arceus, and in turn probably Legends Celebi. And the final cherry on top of this is that the Celestial people lived in Sinjoh. Not even Sinnoh or Johto, they lived in Sinjoh, which means definitely there's some relation to Johto there, and the Celestial people are like the main talk of the town when it comes to freaking Legends Arceus. Now, there's only like 3 descendants really, but still, the Celestial people are so relevant that it's like, alright, if you need to touch upon this or expand this more, the next place to go to is Johto. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Legends Celebi or Legends Johto, it could be possible. The thing is, I don't know, because as far as I'm aware, in terms of leaks and stuff, I'm not going to spoil anything, but nothing about Johto has been mentioned. Really, there has been some things, but nothing to confirm or say that, hey, Johto is coming, whereas other titles seem a little bit more relevant or a little bit more possible. But we can't take leaks as everything either. Like, that's just not something to go with. But I can safely say, in terms of what Game Freak has done, in terms of what Pokemon is showing, this setup for a Legends Johto game is there, and Celebi makes a lot of sense. With Terapagos being a Pokemon that pulls from different, like, parallel universes and dimensions, and basically in some way distorting time and space, Celebi being a time travel Pokemon, because if you time travel, technically it's time and space both, right? You understand that? Maybe not, I don't know. It makes sense, which I guess a lot of the generations are doing, but Gen 6, aside from Hoopa, doesn't really have time travel stuff. Gen 5 also has been the one generation, aside from Gen 1 maybe, to really move away from anything time travel or super universal like that, you know? It hasn't touched upon those things, which is why I like Gen 5 and Gen 1 so much. Oh my god, great games. Just a self-contained story and a good Pokemon game that way. But anyways, but what I'm trying to say is Gen 5 doesn't have much setup in terms of a Legends game. If it does, it's gotta like retcon a lot of things, or it's gotta make up a ton of stuff on the spot. Legends Johto would definitely be way superior in that regard, and yeah, I think it is possible. Now, I wanted to talk about the Switch 2 coming out later this year and what that means for the next Pokemon games and the generation and all that, and, you know, try to use that to figure out, okay, are we getting 2 games, are we getting 1 game, are we getting no games, what's happening, all that good jazz, but that conversation went on for way too long, so I had to delete that bit. Maybe I'll save it for another video, but as far as this one goes, I just think Johto has a really good setup. Though I'm a huge Unova fan and would like Unova game, maybe Johto is the wave. I have no idea. We'll have to see. But we're going to end it here for now because I'll ramble forever otherwise. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful day. Subscribe if you haven't already because I've got more videos coming out. And I'll see you on the next one, alright? Later. Bye.